3, live. Great morning, mi gente. Buenos días, Ana. How are you, sweetie?
Good. Good morning, Yvonne. How you doing?
I am doing pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me this morning.
You're
Having
welcome.
this cup of coffee. It's a little, wow, 11 o'clock. We actually started in divine time.
Yeah.
11.
Oh, I forgot that.
Isn't that funny? I was supposed to be earlier, but when you run
all good.
into technical, especially if you're not a professional, and we're just rookie like we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to do this from home. Here we go. Make
Right.
sure that we're live.
I'm looking on your page, and I'm not seeing it, but maybe I'll hop back into Facebook.
Actually, I just learned something. It's interesting. It doesn't do it automatically. I just made a live on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like that. So I learned something. So basically, even if you tell a StreamYard that you're giving the permission to go live and public, it doesn't really do it automatically. You have to go to your Facebook page and make sure that your audience is public. So I just learned that.
Yeah.
So in here, you saw that we double check and it said public, but it didn't take it to Facebook public right away. I have to go to my page and make it public.
And you'll find that Facebook also has another delay between when you're actually live and when your notifications go out. So your fans will find out maybe 5 minutes in.
Okay. So I'm not sure. Can you still hear me? There's a delay or?
Oh, no, there's no delay in us. I'm just saying between the time that we go live and the time that shows up on here, the time that the notifications show up, there's a difference. I've noticed with my other broadcasting friends.
So let me get a second because I just noticed that my battery is going down. So I want to make sure in the middle of the live.
Get that cord. It's all about the juice.
All right. Okay.
So funny. There we are.
Que la vida es bonita y es bonita, la 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 la, vivir.
And we're live.
Y cantar. Yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
Is all good now?
Yeah. We're on Facebook.
I see that. All right.
And I'm looking at the notifications, and I don't see the notifications yet. So that's the thing. We're there. So hey, Facebook, how you doing?
How you doing? How you doing, Anna?
Yeah. So why don't I see it now? Oh, that's so weird.
Did you see that? Well, it's funny. It says that there's 3 people watching, so that's good. We're good.
Oh, good.
So tell me, Anna, what's going on in your neck of the woods? There's so many exciting things. As you know, there are just a few more days. I like to think of them as day for the upcoming presidential elections. We're very fortunate that the United States Census, they just extended the census deadline. So if you haven't completed your census, Anna, you completed the census.
I did. I haven't mailed it yet, but I have it in my hot little hands.
Did you know that you can do it online also?
Yes, you can, but you need the digits from this form.
Oh, that's right. You know what?
You need the digits from up here. I think from below the bar line is 16. No, not 16. Well, like 12 letters right here, and you enter that in when you go online.
Right.
You need this piece of paper to do that.
Yes, and you want to know something that happened to me, but when I got the paperwork, I was in transition. I was between Cape Cod, Lake Placid, and was traveling. So I couldn't find my form. It got lost in the mail somehow.
Oh.
So I wrote to them in their info thing in the U.S. Census website, and I asked, hey, and they said to me, just try to apply it. Go to the completing the form, and it will give you something that I guess that you can replace that number or somehow it finds you. I can't remember how I did it. I did it back in April, but I did it without the form. So I was able to complete it. And then I got my registration back like, yes, congratulations, you completed your census.
Excellent.
So thank you for sharing that because, yes, if people have received the form and they forgot or they lost it and they need that registration number like you're pointing out, where is it?
And this one is really strange because this year they have one of their features is they want you to fill out your race, which I know is pretty standard normally, but this year's is pretty strange because there's a lot of spaces for things. So I actually called the census number and I said, what do I fill in here? Because I'm American, but I'm a lot of different nationalities. And she just said, write whatever you are, like whatever you feel like, whatever you want to, put in there, you can. That's nationalities that you identify with. So I wrote down American, Italian, English, Irish, Russian, Scottish. So I mean, there's more nationalities that I am, but there's only so much space. So.
It's funny because look at this. I was looking here. I actually have put down in the ticker the information about the U.S. Census. I will probably do it as we're talking because that one is missing. I got information for sending for your ballot. How about your ballot? Did you get your ballot?
Yeah, I got it. I have the paperwork somewhere. I have the sheet. Well, no, I don't have the ballot. What I have is I'm registered to vote in my
community,
district, and they sent me the form that tells me where I'm voting, and it looks like a little card. So if I wanted to cut it out and actually stick it in my wallet, I could. So I know exactly where I'm supposed to vote, what district I'm in, like. It's all on that little card. I just know that I put that piece of paper somewhere. And I know where I'm supposed to vote anyways. And when you go in, I usually bring my license so that they can see how my last name is spelled because it's a really long, weird last name. It's 11 letters long and everyone goes, whoa. So it's not like it's Smith or Smythe or something. No, it's Brownsville. It's 11. I went from Donofrio to Brownsville.
I get confused. That's where sometimes when I'm going to write your last name, I have to look it up. I don't want to misspell it, but I'm always have to look it up.
Yeah.
So anyway,
go
ahead, honey. Go ahead, baby.
Oh yeah. So it sounds different. So so I know what building I have to vote in, and so we know where in that building that we vote, and because that's where our usual voting place is. Because we've been in this location it'll be 23 years in November.
Oh, wow. So yeah, they already know where you are there. So let me ask you something. Did you send for the ballot? Did you send for the mail-in to vote ballot? Or did you just...
No, we're just going to vote in person. Because
they're going to do it in person where you are. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So with me, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be traveling or not, and usually that's my case with me around this time of the year, I sent for it. And I received it. This is my official 2020 vote by mail application. So what this means is that I actually have to send for my mailing ballot application. So I received it. It came here, right? I completed it. Mm-hmm. Now I send the application away. Now I have to wait for them to send me the actual ballot for me to vote and then mail it in.
Yeah.
And this application, for example, this is to fill the application. So this is not the actual ballot. This is the application to send for the ballot.
So you need to allow yourself enough time to do all that.
Right, exactly.
Don't do it too late.
And this is important why I wanted to share this information with the public, because many people, they're not aware that they're sending off for their mailing ballot and they realize that's not your ballot. That's just the mayor application. So once you receive this one, you have to open it. You have to complete the application, then send for it, and then you have to be mindful of the time. There's a deadline for the time. For example, mine is due in the ballot office, in the voting place or the election board, is due on October 20th. So I send it way before October 20th. So it's been gone since the 20th, since September 20th. So it's going to have a month. So I know for a fact that at least 2 weeks before election day, which is November 3rd, I should be paying attention to my mail to make sure that they are sending me the actual official ballot for me to vote in mail. Unless something happened, I'm able to go do it in person, but I already took care of that. So that's very important, Anna. Mm-hmm. Right? That we should be doing this. I'm encourage everyone that is listening, or if you hear this later, please participate, do your diligent duty to participate in your elections. And the census is important too, right? You completed that, right, Anna?
Yeah.
And did you remember what kind of questions they make you at the census? By any
it's
chance?
not hard. It's mostly like who lives in your house, do they live there all the time, and your birth date, of course, because that's how they can figure out it's you. And then they ask. That's funny because the first question they asked this year is this person of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin? So,
right.
And so that's so that's question 6. So
very good.
So I didn't. So I crossed no because I'm
okay.
Not.
Wait. Pause for a second. What was that question again? They asked if you were. What was the ancestry? They asked Spanish. What else?
Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin.
Ooh, that's
and you all got top billing because that's question here before we even get to who you are.
Anna, you just gave me a little bit. This was just it just came on the moment when you were describing or sharing the question how it's written. There's a very interesting piece of cultural intelligence that a lot of people are not aware of. That, for example, you are Anna Brownsville D'Onofrio or Anna D'Onofrio.
It's just Anna Brownsville. For Facebook, I put my middle name is so that my friends from high school can find me because they couldn't find me under my middle name.
Now, let me ask you something. What is your ethnic identity?
I have a lot.
Like all of us, right?
Yeah. Well, some more than some others actually, because I didn't have for question 7. It says, "What is this person's race?" And so I actually I called them and I asked them, "How do I fill this in?" Because I'm American, but I'm also a lot of other things.
You called the Census Bureau?
I did.
No. So explain that to me. I want you to take me through that. That's interesting.
Because under white, under question 7, you get to check in white, black, or African American. Print, for example, African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Somali, etc. And that goes here. And then American Indian or Alaskan Native, and that goes here. And then there's Chinese, Filipino, Asian, Indian, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, Samoan, Pacific Islander, and then other Asian. So that's all this block. And then if you have some other race of origin, print that. So what I asked her, I said, I'm white, but I'm a lot of different things. What do I put? And she said, write what your national, what you are, you can put in anything. Not anything, but you can put in, the stuff there. So I wrote down American, Italian, English, Irish, Russian, Scottish. And so I used all the space that they gave me. Mm-hmm. You have to fill it out in, I think, black pen. I don't even know if they allow blue pen. I think it's black or blue. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I actually have more nationalities than this. Like, if I really want to get technical, I'm at least 1% of what they would consider Asian Indian, because I'm part, like, I have a relative who came over from India to America.
I can see a little bit of that in your genetic phenotype. So no, but that's very interesting. I got curious when you were actually sharing. This is, by the way, this is unscripted. We have no agenda. It's just 2 gals that decided to go online for a few minutes and have a cup of coffee and just talk about a little bit of the state of affairs that are going on around the country right now. The elections coming up, the census participation, just chatting away. But Anna, well, she was just sharing something about her experience in completing the census, about that question they ask you about race and ethnicity. And why that question jumped out at me, because there is Anna. She's our regular average Jane Doe American woman, Caucasian.
I am pale. I am so pale. I'm almost okay.
We gotta send you closer to the equator so we can get that melatonin going and get your
I go from white to pink because then I burn, and then I peel and I go back to white.
All right, you're your typical white person, Anna.
The only time I could tan was when I was pregnant, because my husband's he's a little bit part Spanish, So the kids got it, and so they tan. My husband tans, and the kids tan, but I cannot. Only when I was pregnant.
No, well, and the reason that being, that's what I want to, that question jumped out of me, and let's elaborate on this, because it goes to show you how our government sometimes they're doing in the last 15 years, I will say 20, just to be nice, they're just becoming culturally intelligent. So in the census of 2010, they realized that race and ethnicity is two different things, because you can look your phenotype or your genetic makeup, your race. You can look African descent, Caucasian descent, Asian descent, or aboriginal indigenous descent. That's going to show your genetic material, your genome and phenotype. Now, cultural identity is different, because cultural identity is actually the values, the custom that you identify in the everyday, how you live your life, your belief system, the kind of food that you eat at home, the language, culture, the ritual, exactly, culture. That's your values. Your values come a lot from your cultures and the mores, from the cultural identity that you identify. So it's very interesting when you call the census and you were asking for guidance, because they're just barely now, I will say US government, they're just barely now getting a hang on or understanding about a race and cultural identity, and how both of them, they go together, and at the same time they're not, because race and identity is two different things. You can be a race. For example, let's take, for example, our President Obama. There is a man that he is the offspring of a Caucasian woman and an African descent man. So there she is, first American or second generation American, Irish American, and who else, what other genetic makeup is on her genetic lineage. And then you have the father's side that is from Kenya. He's a first generation Kenyan from Kenya. It's not like he's first generation American. No, he is a person from Kenya. So there are these Kenyan men and these Irish American descent women join their egg and their sperm, and a beautiful mixed race offspring came. So in his genetic makeup, our former President Obama he's an excellent prototype for the country, because he meets all the genetic material mix. So for us to say, yes, he was our first Black African American president on mixed race, I feel more comfortable saying that our former President Barack Obama, he was of mixed race. He was just a regular American, just like we all are. It's just that for some reason, our country, our mindset collectively was not ready yet to accept the fact you're looking at a man of mixed race, that's your president, former President Obama. He's just not Black. He's more than just a Black man. He has to honor his elders, just like his Caucasian side of the family, his Irish descent, the Dunham last name, and also his family ancestry from his father's side, Kenya. There's nothing wrong with that. We should, every person, especially in America or in the world, because we're divine creation, we should be comfortable with our race and ethnicity. So just in the last few years, the census, I would say in the last 15, 10, that's why they redesigned that question, because they realize that someone could be a color of the skin, but they might not necessarily identify with that color of the skin, you know?
Right.
So that's the important thing about America. We are a diverse genetic gene pool. And if we really want to bring it down to the beginning of kind of like the human species, the human genome, then we got to take it all the way back to Africa for the female mitochondria. Then we all came out of the monkey. So we're all monkeys, Anna.
Or we can agree to disagree, because I don't go for that. But if you think of where the Ark landed was probably somewhere in Asia, and we all sprang from that, right? Then then it's a similar thing, just a different place. And I know I'm in a minority. People People don't always believe in creation or the flood anymore, which I understand, and it's okay. But that's just
Well,
where I am at.
yes.
I don't want to be related to a monkey. I'm just not. You know, I'm not. I know. If I was, yoga would be so much easier. You know?
No, it's funny because it's very difficult for many individuals to accept, science and spirituality and evolution and the Big Bang theory, and that we're still, as human, in the process of still we're evolving. So more likely in the next 15 years or maybe 100 years, all the living species in the planet, we respond to our environment, to the sun. So that's why, for example, if you have people that are living closer to, like the North, those people get lighter skin. The ones that are getting as closer to the equator, they get darker skin because they have to do with the environment, the melatonin.
Right. No, my mom says that we're part Viking. So north. In fact, my middle name literally means of the north.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where the Scottish and Irish and all that English.
No, and it's so funny because when I first met you and I saw your last name, especially the part Donofrio, I knew you had Latin background because you do have some Italian ancestry. That's where the Latin Romance languages originated from. That's from the Latin Roman Empire. So people that have some kind of, ethnic identity, or at least that they consider themselves, they are derived from the Roman languages that come from the Latin, like Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, Romania, right? And Latin. All those are come from the Roman languages. That's why those languages are called the Romance languages, because they came from the Romans, from the Latin.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting that the disservice that in this country, because of xenophobia and a little bit of that ignorance with bigotry, that people are so afraid to identify with this origin or ethnic identity, because in this country they created a division that they don't only see you either white or you're black. No, we're more than that.
And the thing is, in 1890, when my great grandfather came to this country with his 5 brothers, back then the stereotype.
I'm just getting more coffee.
Okay. There you go. The nationality that was not in favor at the time was the Italian, because there were so many of us coming from Italy. My people aren't necessarily from the northern Rome. It's my people are more in the middle of the boot. We're
I'm going to show you
outside of Rome. And actually, because of the region where I'm at, my dad's DNA actually came up part Greek, because the region in that area also.
It's all about the region.
With Greek. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was going to school, this was early in the 90s, maybe before, I was studying biology because I was supposed to going to be a med tech. And one of the first classes that I took was genetics. And that was a very fascinating class because at the time, they didn't really even have the discovery or the knowing. They were getting there about the human genome. So they had not really done the mapping. They were working on it. That came out like in the 90s. That's when the human genome really popped out, and they realized all the way down to like the female mitochondria, which is like the mother of the mothers. And I think if in the schools, if they were to offer that information to everyone early on, they'll grow up less xenophobic because they'll understand that we have more similarities than different. Because we are just one human genome. We just have variations of that color. It's like the rainbow, The rainbow is not just one color. It's different colors, and then they just join, and you can have the spectrums, the mosaic of different colors. Well, that's how the gene pool is, especially when it comes to the human animal. We're not able to get together with a cow or a horse or a dog. It has to be another human that needs the same genetic. Unless in the future some mutation happen. I don't know. Other people believe that we're hybrids also with the extraterrestrial. That's another topic for another Sunday, Anna.
Right, that's another bunny trail.
Yes, but it's fascinating that when you call the census, that it was interesting that she was able to point out it was about you can identify with your whatever is your ethnic identity. Now race is different. You can say you're African descent, that you have indigenous African. I actually, my ethnic identity, I got Spanish, I got French. That's from my dad's side. I don't even know my mom's side yet. They look, they're very Irish looking.
Yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me. I haven't done my DNA yet, but other family members have done it. And yeah, it came out Spanish, French, we had a little bit of Arabic, Portuguese also.
Oh,
it's crazy.
That's fun.
That's my niece. I have to do mine because probably she gets some Portuguese also. But it's all the Iberian Peninsula. You know, Spain, the Iberian Peninsula, before even was the Iberian Peninsula, Anna, do you know? It was called Celt, the Celt country, the Celtoids, the Celts. Those were the inhabitants that were in the Iberian Peninsula before the Roman Empire was coming through Europe, sweeping when they were expanding their empire. So the inhabitant of the Iberian Peninsula, when they heard the Romans are coming, they didn't want to be subjected of the Roman Empire. So a lot of, they used to be nomads. Remember, these people were clans. It's not like nowadays. So they will pick up like nomads, and they began moving north because they wanted to run away from the Romans, meaning we don't want to be subject to these people. So they abandoned. And that's why a lot of the Celts are now, you know, where they are in the British Isle. And I learned all this in history. I mean, this is not my opinion. These are stuff that I have read through time. There's a lot of information that you can Google online, but it's fascinating. So, which means by that it's in our genetic makeup, Anna.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why when I look at my mother, her family, that are all, for example, her father was a carrot red hair and blue eyes and very freckle. I remember him, my grandpa Emilio. And he was blue-eyed, and then he married Savine, my grandma. And she got brown eyes, so they have 4 or 5 kids. And the girls all came out green and blue eyes. My mother's one of them, and I have an aunt that is the brown eye, just like my grandma. And so that's the genetic history that I'm yet to learn, because I got to do my DNA test. And let me show you what I got. Hold on.
So she's grabbing her DNA test results.
Ta-da!
Ooh, hey, that's fun.
I can't wait to do it. I'm gonna.
So is that the result? This is the test. Okay.
Yeah, this is the National Geographic Human Genome Project.
Okay.
So you can swap your DNA and send it to them, and then you agree to be part of the Human Genome Project around the world. So what they're doing right now is they're mapping mankind. Basically, when he became from the female mitochondria, when he began to walk and erect and populate the earth, because we began walking, you know? So that's why it shows there, the man, Geno 2.2. So National Geographic.
Oh, neat. Yeah, my dad did the
I gotta do that.
Ancestry.com one.
Which one is that?
So, my dad did the Ancestry.com one because he has a membership with Ancestry.com. Yes. And so he's actually was able to find some cousins and stuff that he hadn't seen in a long time. Or
isn't that cool?
Know, yeah.
Yes. I have an aunt in Puerto Rico. Her name is Ramonita Vélez Hernandez. She's like the family historian and genetic expert. So she has actually gone like almost 5 generations back from her dad's side. And they all was traced to France and Spain, the Canary Islands. And it's not surprising because in Puerto Rico, we actually do have a very mixed ancestry, but we do have a bulk of a big ancestry of Canary Islands in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And a lot of people are not aware of that, but those were the sailors that sailed off with Columbus from La Isla La Gomera in archipelago, like in 1492, when they decided to leave the old world, come to the new world, looking for the molasses, whatever they were looking for, the spices.
The spices, they were trying to find spices.
So when they landed in the Caribbean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were Canary. They were from the Canary Island because that's where he's sought of. You know, I'm sure he brought some people from Spain and Italy when he left the mainland of Spain or Italy. But when he got to the Canary Islands to fuel, you know, to get supplies, like going to the other side of the world, they were mostly Canary. So that's why in Puerto Rico, there's a strong ancestry of Canary Islands, and you see it in their food, in their music, the way we talk.
I think he thought that where he was landing was India, like because he was trying to get that. So it you know, slight miscalculation. So, but he did prove that there was something there.
That it was he was
right.
Excuse me, he wasn't flat, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and he was right that that there should be a landmass where he thought there was one, but it wasn't. And you know, they were just so thankful to land on firm land, you know, that they just, you know, said thank you God, and you know, consecrated that land right then. You know, this little prayer service, like thank you Lord, because it was.
We're not going to go over the horizon. We're not going to go over the horizon. We're safe.
Yeah, and people were, you know, some of the folks, you know, some of the guys were worried about that. So you know, it's nice that it worked. You know, that he found something, and so his hunch was right that there was something to be discovered, or you know, to be investigated. You know, so yeah.
And it is so funny because ever since they came over, you know, that first 3 sailboats or ships left Spain or La Isla Gomera from the Archipelago Canario, whatever, to the New World. It hasn't stopped. The only time it stopped was briefly was during the Spanish-American War, when 1898, when the Maine got extinct in Cuba, and then the Spanish and American, they were fighting for the maritime shipping lanes, that empire that the Spanish had. We wanted it. After America became America, you know, and got independent from the England. It was a racing, young, full of virusing country, and they decided to go after the shipping lane from Spain. So what caused that war was supposedly the main ship was sunk in Cuba. So that gave, what you might call it, that gave the Spanish, the American, oh, let's go in. They sunk our boat. We gotta go fight.
But that's it.
Yeah, I know. So that was 1898. So that kind of stopped the traffic a little bit. But before up to 1898, and it continued until maybe 1911, 17, 1952, because that's when finally America, you know, the United States took over the shipping lanes, and then they stopped the traffic between Spain, the Canary Islands, or Spain, right? Whatever was the businesses crossing into the Atlantic, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Canary Islands, or Spain. Spain, Canary Islands, you know, Cuba, Puerto Rico. So that cut the traffic with Puerto Rico, because now Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. But it continued through, then it moved to continue with Venezuela, Cuba, and Spain, right? Spain, Cuba, Venezuela. So that triangle is still going. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of people, the people from Venezuela that are facing the Caribbean Sea, like Maracaibo, I'm not sure which one is the country, don't quote me on that one, but their accent, they sound very similar to Cubans and Puerto Rican, Canaries, Spaniards, because that's the similarity. But if you come to think about it, Anna, this is 2020.
Yeah.
That was the last of that was 1917. Could you imagine? It was only 100 years ago. So how many, if you were to put some generations in there, that we are under the influence of
if you figure maybe 20 years, you know, 20 years per generation, like that would be 5 generations.
Right. So can you imagine how many people, if you were to count in 5th generation, they're really in touch with their cultural identity? Because it's like how here in the US, when people come from the old world, they come here, they adopt the way of life, what is to be a way of being American, because it's not a race. Being an American is it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being. And of course, we follow some orders and rules and society, and we have a constitution, we have a government. But being an American is not really a race. We are actually the divine creation, the mosaic of the divine taste that divinity love. I don't know, diversity so much, or
we're all
spice.
one race. Like we're all one race, the human race. Yeah,
the human race. That's it. We're not the cow race. We're not the animal like the cow or no. We are the human animal, and the human animal will have many races. It's just like when you look at a cat or a dog or a cow. How many different cows are they? You got black cows, white cows, brown cows with white stripes. You got brown cows.
But they're all cows. And if you look at
but they're all cows.
Right.
Same with dogs. You can get a pit bull and you can get a poodle and you mix them, but it's still going to be a dog. Nothing else is going to come out of that is a different.
Some genetic material might have been lost between, wolf and
exactly
poodle.
But we belong to the same.
But they can still interbreed, so they're still the same.
Right.
That.
And that's something that if Americans are able to comprehend that and feel comfortable with it, I think they'll become more accepting and respectful and understanding of other people that they view different because they speak a different language, different culture, they have different ritual, different value system. But if we come from that place where we all understand that we are created equal in the image and liking of this divinity, or regardless who you want to believe, if you're divine. Sometimes I say to people, and especially if they're not religious, I say, you don't have to believe in religion to be a kind person. That's something that you feel in your heart, because to be kind, to be noble, to be generous, we're made out of love. Anything else that is not love is our own creation, but we are the spirit in the flesh. And what's that mean? To be a kind, hey, be a good dude, be a good chica, be a good person.
Right.
That's it, Anna.
A side tangent from that, an interesting factoid I was thinking of was because there's certain countries that will, I don't know how many, but I know that because my grandfather was the one that came over from Italy in 1892 or 1891.
Wow.
Yeah, so because it was the male of that family, the Italian government would recognize if I wanted to become a dual citizen.
Oh, yes. The same. I have the same for me. I can do either Spanish or French, actually. Because I have great grandparents. I actually look into this. I might do it for my grandchildren in the future. I can do it.
Yeah.
And actually, because I have the information from the Canary Islands and I have information from France. So it's a matter of doing paperwork. And they allow you to have dual citizenship. I'm not sure if USA does. I haven't looked into that.
They might.
I do have a friend. He's Spaniard. He's from Madrid, Mauricio. Hola, Mauricio. Si me estás escuchando, hombre, saludo. Majo. Te quiero mucho, no te me pierdas. My friend Mauricio, he's from Spain, and he has dual citizenship. Then I also have a friend of mine, two friends of mine, they're married to one another. She's from Spain, Barcelona, and he's from France, southern France. So he's French, she's Spanish, and they both live in Canada. And they both have dual citizenship. French Canadian. He got French and the Canadian citizenship because he was born in France.
Right.
And then she's Spanish and also the Canadian. So they both have the dual citizenship. So somehow I think Spain allows them. I'm not sure the United States allows us to do that. I haven't looked into it. I don't mean to be ignorant. It's just I haven't looked into it. I suppose I can ask Mauricio. That's right. He got it.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, there's a lot of people that are doing that. I have some other friends of mine that their father is Italian, and they just went for the dual citizenship. So they're
because
Italian.
For a long time they would only recognize the male relative that had traveled. So if you can trace it to a male,
you can probably do it.
It's easier. They've changed some of the laws since then, but basically their landmark case was about it has to do with Yeah.
I want to do it for just for fun. It's kind of cool, and
be careful just to be aware of what their taxing structure is, because if you're dual citizenship, you might owe some taxes to them depending on what you do.
I gotta look into all that. I mean, I go to I spend a lot of times in the Canary Islands.
I've never been. No, where
the Canary Islands?
Yeah, where are they?
The Canary Islands. I don't want to play with this because I'm not too versed yet, but they're an archipelago outside of. They're closer to Africa, to the Continente de Africa, in the north coast of Africa, by the Gibraltar Strait of Rock, whatever they call it. It's right there when you see the little hump of Africa coming this way. The hump.
Okay.
It's kind of outside of Morocco. Like if you see Morocco, you probably can locate the Canary Islands.
Okay.
And it's an archipelago, 7 or 8 islands, and that's part of Spain. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay. It's and it is so funny. They're closer to Africa.
Googling while I'm talking and listening.
No worry. So yes,
Gran Canaria.
It's beautiful that the diversity. That's also because these are islands. Remember, it's like Puerto Rico. Everybody that goes in there, that's been going there since 1892.
Because the trade routes. Yeah.
If they had any sexual behavior and reproduction, well, you're spreading your genetic makeup. It's like the pollens and the bees, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what mankind has done, populating the world, you know, mixing. Doesn't matter. Like I said, if the divine did not want us to mix with any other color, then he wouldn't have made that possible. Like you cannot take a cow and a human and mix them. You can. I'm sure a lot of people have tried to do crazy stuff like that. Like the movie, The Island of Monroe with Marlon Brando. You remember that movie, Ellen? You seen
what
that
was
movie?
It called? What's it called? Isle of Man?
The Island of Monroe, La Isla de Monroe, is with Marlon Brando. That was one of his latest role in life. Towards the end, and it was a bizarre movie. I loved it, but basically, it's the premise is genetics, trying to take different species and mixing them, trying to create some kind of hybrid.
Ooh, weird.
You gotta watch the movie. It's kind of, but it's interesting. So the time I saw it, yeah.
So moving. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, honey. Go ahead.
I was thinking, so moving from global citizenship to local, what we were talking about, what we wanted to cover some of this was how to be available and to be of use to your local community, because like we don't want to be political, but you can be involved without necessarily being, Republican or Democrat. In fact, I'm part of a nonpartisan group that is called Pro Brockport. And so we actually all work together, this group, to fight being disbanded twice. Because New York State at one point, Cuomo was trying to get rid of different layers of government, like having too many redundancies, which I understand and appreciate.
Yeah, duplication of services, yes.
But our region needs the services we already have in place, because we have an unusual situation like Boston, Massachusetts, where you have a lot of students coming in. Our population doubles when the college comes in. So our little village is 2.2 square miles. And then at 2.2 square miles and 7,000 citizens. And you bring in the college, it's another 7,000.
Right.
So traffic doubles, everything. And in fact, our little village is weird because technically it's covered by the town of Sweden on one half and the town of Clarkson on the other. So they kind of work with the village. Case in point, we all three areas all work together to have our library. It's a combination of the two towns, town of Sweden, town of Clarkson, village of Brockport, and we have a really nice library because we have three communities working together. There's a board there's the board of directors, and they have their meetings and stuff. So if you want to be involved and have a say in what really affects your community, you want to be involved at the local level and find these groups that resonate with you. And like I found our group because I think somebody walked around door to door, and we had found out about the dissolution thing. There was a bunch of people that wanted to dissolve the village because for them it would be beneficial because it would get rid of the police department and it would take out the code office, because the people who have houses, the landlords, have to have things up to code for people's safety. But if you don't have the Village of Brockport, you don't have the Village of Brockport code office. So they had a monetary motivation to dissolve the village, and they still do. We had to fight for it again, like 4 years later when the votes came up again. And so in the meantime, like you would think that, like, if you didn't know that, if you weren't part of the group, you wouldn't know that this was going on unless you're aware of things that the group was doing that was benefiting the community. The Pro Brockport and the Brockport Village Board made a welcome center for when people come off the Erie Canal into Brockport. They have a welcome center. There's bikes you can rent. There's places to go to the bathroom, and like there's things available for those people that are coming in on the canal. And then there's also businesses in the region who benefit from that foot traffic or bicycle. We actually have a bike path through our village because of this traffic we get from the Erie Canal. So that it affects everything. It affects the very way we go down our main street, because there's the 2 pedestrian sidewalks, there's the 2 bike paths, 1 for each side, and then 1 lane of traffic either way. So, people think that, what do I get for my taxes and stuff? Well, we also do things like there's a sidewalk snow plow that's pretty much just for the village, and they plow up all of our. It's so cute. It's this little bitty like caterpillar track thing that goes through and plows all of our sidewalks. I mean, it's kind of when it's a heavy duty snow and a lot of ice pack, it doesn't go very deep, but it gets the most of the bulk of it out of your way so that the residents can go and throw down some rock salt or shovel or all the above, so that everyone can stay safe in the area. So we also they do a few things. There's a town gown connection. We call it that because it's a connection between the college, because they are part of our community. If we don't reach out to them, and if there isn't a connection there, then they're kind of the other, and the village is kind of the main focus. So because we all share the space, we try to do things like on Arbor Day, they plant plants, they plant trees. And so they've been doing that for a number of years. So Brockport Village is actually a tree town USA, because we have a forest that actually is, we have a whole bunch of trees that everyone knows about who keep track of that, it helps with, the environment and so forth. Another thing that happened early on when we were first part of Pro Brockport is there was a building that was across the street that was taken down because of ill repair and what have you. And so the owner of that property didn't want other houses to come in and subdivide that area. And so what they did was, when they sold the house and the property to the village, they wanted a stipulation that it wouldn't be broken up into lots and separately sold. So right now we have a good sized green space right across the street. On nice. On that green space is a tree that's over 100 years old. It's one of our oldest trees in Brockport. And so at one point people were trying No, that was the thing that we the whole community rallied around. We wanted to save that tree because at some point we did. We actually, there was photographs done. My youngest was in a stroller at the time, And so we all rallied around to save that tree, because at one point they hadn't quite firmed up that it wasn't going to be subdivided and what have you. So we saved that tree, and it's a very basic thing, but it was actually kind of neat to see the community do a thing like for no real monetary gain. It's a tree, but it does help our the aesthetics of our surroundings. It's a nice little tree. It turns out I'm actually allergic to that tree.
You are?
Yeah, I had my but we saved it anyway. Yeah, I found out years later that I was allergic to that tree. So
that's funny, Anna.
So that's how you can to go granular on how local politics. Like there's Democrats and Republicans in this pro Brockport group, but that division doesn't come up because our goals are things that are supposed to help our community.
Right. No, and you're just kind of like stepping into what we were talking about earlier, the reason as to why it's so important to complete the census. And you broke it down so beautiful, the impact that the terror of a population has in a community. So that takes resources. To me, the census, the way I look at it as an American, it's like my family. Why? Because when you're running a household, like for example, Anna, that's your family. And what you got to do, you got to secure money to pay rent, for the utility, the services, food, insurance, health, maintenance. Well, that requires a budget. So the census is the same thing. The community is the family. The roads needs to be taken care. The services in the community need to be provided and maintained. And how they do that, they need to get the federal funding. And in order for the community like yours, where you are, Anna, dealing with that amount of population, influx of students that comes and go, right? Especially, it's like us here at the Cape, where I am, when there's no, how do you say, the season is not on, there's maybe 3,000 people, something like that. Don't quote me wrong. That's what I was told. I haven't looked into more depthness into it, but it's between 2,000 to 3,000 people that are here.
Oh, wow.
In the summertime. In the summertime, it goes up to 70-something thousand. So that brings it there we're in the town for the roads and services and the police, law enforcement, the hospital, all that kind of stuff.
We actually have to have a police force in our village, because while there's a small police force for the college, the jurisdiction of where they stop is where the property line of the college stops. So when you have all these students who are living in off-site campus, they're living off campus and in apartments and renting houses and so forth. You need something to help them for when they make bad decisions or something goes wrong. And it's a lot of people, and like any college, the location matters. So you have all these
locations matter. Exactly, the location matters.
So they need to have a police force that can come to them in a hurry whenever. And that's what our police force does.
My guys in blue. I support the men in blue because they're the ones that provide me the security, the safety. Yes, I'm aware that we need some changes that we need to do to make these important services to our community more and more efficient and proficient without getting into all this stuff that is happening. And it's doable. It can be done.
It's doable.
Absolutely. The community and the police and everybody, the powers that may be that are the leaders that are running a community, this is the time that everybody should be sitting in the table. There's Ryan saying hello. Good morning, Ryan. Thank you for checking in.
Oh, that's great.
Our man. Yes. And so it is so important for us to be able to create a working, amicable relationship with law enforcement, in where we are the ones that are helping them and guiding them as to how best be more effective if providing the security and safety for our community. Right. And we got to get into a place of mindfulness, of being conscious, of being awake, because from that place, Anna, That's why mindfulness and civic engagement is so important. Let me take a little bit side note before we wrap up this little coffee chat section. Mindfulness and civic engagement matters. And why is that? Because no human being is capable of making a rational decision without being in a place that is free of bias, free of prejudice. So where did you get in that space? You get into that space when you honor the present moment, when you free your mind, everything that ties your heart, especially if it's tied with hate, pain, suffering, that come from a place that you're not conscious because you're nurturing past experience, regardless of what they might be. So the same thing we should be applying when we're engaging our community, engage with our family, engage with our friends, in our relationship. We should be present and mindful so we can offer the best that we have. So the same thing when we're working in our community. If you belong in any neighborhood and there's a structure in place, especially the time for election to choose your elected representative, you should be in a place that you're free of suffering, free of bias, free of prejudice, especially when you come to vote, because it's only from that place that you're going to feel what is the right thing. You're going to feel in your heart that you're choosing a candidate that it resonates with kindness, with goodness, with what is the right thing and the thing for the community as a community of interest. So mindfulness and civic engagement do matter. Civic engagement cannot exist without mindfulness because you got to be a conscious human being, a human being that is feeling the pulse of the room, the pulse of the energy of your community, the pulse of the vibrancy of that represented individual that is coming in front of you, quoting you for that core. To me, the election is that's the best time. I love politics. Not that I care to talk about parties, but I love the way the elected representative begin this courtship because it's like a romance, it's like a bromance. They just want to court you for that vote,
and that's why. And that's where the community steps in, because after the whole hoopla falls away, then we have the opportunity to help those in our neighborhood and in our village and so forth. Because if we're only aware when there's a crisis, then it's too hard to get speed going again to be a unified group.
Exactly.
To help each other. And like case in point, one of the things our pro Brockport does is actually helps with what the food bank needs. We have a local food bank in our community.
Yes.
that ministers to hundreds of people through this whole pandemic. They've actually had to change how they donate, how they drop off donations to not drop off, how they drop off, how you receive stuff. You make a phone call and they come to your door, and they it's all contactless. They hand over the boxes or the bags or what have you. However, it's both, because there's like local produce and there's stuff from various stores. That's how the food bank works, and you bring it into your home. And it's all, we have masks, there's social distancing, but they're doing all the things right, but they're doing all the things also for the right reasons to help the people in the community to get through this, or to get through each, whatever's hard time at the moment. So they're doing good stuff. So so that's a thing there's no politics in that. Like, how do you can't be political and you can't be negative if you're going to want to help hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah.
Yes. No. The same thing, like when people said to me, "Oh, I don't vote, I don't register because I don't believe in politicians." Well, that's the whole point. If you're going to be listening to the political propaganda, if you pay closely attention, politics are designed to discourage people to participating, and the ones that they want to participate are the ones that they're inciting because they're moving their fear. They're inciting people to engage in listening to the political propaganda that the media is feeding the collective by fear, from a place of prejudice. And that's what we Americans need to be, the smart nation that we are. That's where we need to go. Thank you for sharing. I heard you. Now I'm allowed to have my own space and my time, and from my heart, I will feel. And if I have a moral sound compass, I will feel what is the right thing to do. I don't need to listen to the political propaganda. Thank you very much for sharing. Actually, that's very nice because it gives you an insight as to where perhaps those people are coming from. And I always say the media and politics are a marriage of convenience. So there's a class in SUNY, Anna. SUNY Albany, Rockefeller College. I'm not kidding. That's a 500 level class. I took that as a political science when I was going for my master. And I actually took the class out of curiosity. You know why? Because it was actually called, and it's in my strength, medium politics. And I'm like, wow, what is that about? So curiosity did not kill my kitty. That saying that goes, curiosity killed the cat. No.
Right.
Cat's curiosity never dies. That's what we're so feeling like. Yeah. And the female in us. So anyway.
Also another quickie. Go ahead, because we're in an election year. If you want to be useful to your community, you could also help with the voting. They need people.
That's right. Thank you for mentioning that.
And it could actually either be a paid position or it could be a volunteer, depending on how your region works it. I believe the Rochester area.
I know you just brought a really good point.
And with the Board of Elections, they also give you this handy dandy how to vote, because when we had the new machines come in, they show you how to work it.
Exactly.
And this was years ago this came through. So there's groups of people who are just devoted to doing the Board of Elections. There's a women's group that just does election stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're reliable. They show up all the time. The in between elections, the big elections, they're there all the time. And their name escapes me, but it's a group of women who just help with elections.
I think they call it monitors, right, Anna? They call it monitors.
I don't know. It depends on your region. I'm sure they have different. There's a polling place workers.
Polling place. It's funny. That. Thank you. I don't know that by now. You know why? Because my last year residing in Albany, New York, before we moved, I actually volunteer. I worked election. One of the election days, I think it was May. I can't remember. Maybe 2018. Something was going on. We participated, me and my husband. We volunteer and being the voting booth, polling, whatever, monitor.
Sure.
And that was fun. Right. And then another one, look, it's funny. I love civic participation. It's so interesting. To me, it's like a learning classroom. Look at what I just got this week, talking about, since we're in a role, talking about civic engagement and why is it matter and all that. Look at what I got, Anna.
What is it?
I almost forgot to mention this. This is, I got.
Remember to cover your address just for your own.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Sorry. Thank you so much. You see, what would I do with my expert, Anna? Here we go. This is my jury duty service. They just sent me I just got it yesterday. So here we go. I got my application. I sent for my voting application. I will be responding to my jury duty thing. My census already filled it out back in April 25th.
We both got one? Oh, it looks like we got
you got another one? What you got?
This is a while ago. I think but this is what it looks like in New York State.
Okay.
So this is how the envelopes look for the big red is a big indicator that this is something, don't throw this away. It's important.
Yes. What do you say? Is that related to the ballot or to the census?
That was neither. That was jury duty. My husband
was
we were contacted for jury duty, but for some reason, I think we were able to be excused from that one because of, I think, my husband.
This one is a trial, it says. This one is says. This will be my third time, Anna.
Sorry, my husband's speaking at the same time you are, so what?
Don't worry, trial juror.
Oh.
They never got this.
So apparently the number that they had for us, we didn't get picked because they had so many numbers of people that they just took the first section and we didn't have to do it. So that's
a process. It's very cool. I actually got called one for a murder trial in Albany, and it was ethnic related. So it was an African American man that have killed a Latino man. So they were going through the selection process, and the prosecutor didn't want me. That was funny. They got rid of me.
Oh.
The defense wanted me, and I actually saw this play out. How they choose. Basically, you're being profiled. They do this questionnaire. They interview you right over there.
Right, because they want a panel of.
Yeah.
They want a whole wide range of ages and points of view, so they try to make it.
So I saw when how do you say excuse me, the the prosecutor said, oh no, we don't no, there's the one, the defense, yes, the I don't know which, I got confused, but one of the two didn't want me because I knew too much about the cultural thing because I was Puerto Rican and the guy that got killed was a Puerto Rican man. So they asked me questions about culture and things like that. When they listened to my accent, they heard me, oh wait, this one knows too much. No, we don't want her. It was really funny.
They know too much.
No, honestly, to see this played out, how they do that, I was fascinated. Then I got called for another one that it was not as much of a murder, it was some other kind of, and that was another interesting process. And this will be my third one. This one is a trial. It doesn't say, but trial jury. That's just a trial juror. So I have to send. I got 10 days to respond to it.
Okay.
So Anna, I think this has been wonderful.
This is great.
I think we cover some of the stuff that we wanted to chit chat about, just like two girls getting together and what worry matters to us as people that we're responsible, that we care for our community, for our neighbors, for our families, and why it's so important for us to be civically engaged, participating in your election process. Even if you don't like the devils that are representing you or the angels, whatever, you got to pick it. You got to pick one. You got to pick the lesser of the two evil.
And you know why? Because I was told years ago, if you don't vote, you can't.
Bitch. It's okay. I'm sorry.
No, but that's the truth. If you don't participate, you don't get to really complain about it because
you don't get to complain. I repent.
I am amazed at how many people sit out elections. I vote like I'm from Seneca Falls, and so we've only had the right to vote as women in New York State for about 100 years.
Exactly.
This year marks 100 years. That's all.
I know. That's why, for that alone, listen, I have a cousin, and I hope he's listening to me. I won't say his name. This is my baby cousin, and I don't want to put him in the spot. I love you, Chico. Tú lo sabes. But we have these discussions because he won't register. He won't vote. He's totally disamoral of the whole political process, and he's very cynical. He doesn't believe anything. It's like I said to him or anyone that is listening to this. We understand the cynicism. We totally get it. I'm cynical too, but I still feel that more responsibility, obligation to stand by my people, for the people, with the people, for the people, by the people. That's my responsibility. Even if I don't like the representatives that are being presented to me, I still have to do that civic duty and have that moral responsibility to at least try to tune in consciously, mindfully, fully present from my heart and feel if the energy that representative that is speaking to us, right, the platform, is resonating with my soul. It's resonating with my grace. If it's not resonating with grace, it's not a go. As easy as that. You either feel it from grace or you don't. Simple as that.
That goes for not just the head honcho roles. It goes all the way down. Like when every time you go to vote, every 2 years, every 4 years, you're voting for county clerks, you're voting for mayors, you're voting for representatives, the senator, the congressman, and don't let them off the hook. You don't like what they're doing.
Oh, the school board. How about participating in your community school board? That's a big one. That's where your mentors are going to fit in the mind of your children. Participate in your local school board elections.
And also, even closer than that, I mean, this is something I get challenged on because, you know, we're all so busy and so forth, but I guess the PTSA is still a thing. You know, it's not just from the 1950s. There's still people that can, you know, they make the book sales. They make, you know, they help with the band boosters and all that stuff. So, you know, even if you could just follow them in a Facebook group, which my school has a Facebook group for Our district has 5 schools, so our high school class can be as big as 1,000 that graduate a year. So it's a big district. So there's a PTSA, Parent Teacher Student Association, and they have a Facebook group, and then there's also another Facebook group because this year was so wonky because of distance learning and hybrid learning and remote learning, all
they're
those
just
things.
learning. They just figured this out as they go.
Yeah, so there's a Facebook group for parents of the Brockport schools as well, and so that the parents group will get input we'll get posts from the PTSA because they'll share it from one group to the other. So I mean, you don't have to just be all on paper. It can be entirely on your phone. Exactly. It's just, and that's how powerful these doodads are. I mean, we pay for them every month, might as well use it.
Right?
Yep.
So Anna, I think we're getting ready to wrap this up.
Yep.
Just let's do a quick little recap. It is so great, all that stuff that you share. That's why I thought this was so great for us to talk about, because we talk about all these things all the time. We're saying we should be sharing that with our community. Why is it so important to participate in your elections, complete your census? We're so fortunate that the U.S. Census Bureau just extended the deadline to complete the census, if I'm not mistaken, to October 31st. That's fact. I listened to that on NPR and I corroborated that. So October 31st is the deadline to complete the census, the U.S. Census. And of course, in many states around the nation, to register to vote for the presidential elections in November 3rd. Many states and localities, their deadline is October 1st. I believe that in one of the stickers in the banners right at the bottom, I have put information of election boards across the nation, the U.S. official sites, where everyone can go and take a look as to what is the deadline to register to vote on November 3rd.
Right.
And the deadline for many...
And factor in the travel time between the forms that you had to have an application to vote, which is not the same as a ballot. You have to allow for time for both of those to travel. And when you put the census back in your envelope, pay attention to how you do it, because even that matters, because they need to see that number.
I love you, Anna. You're great. You're wonderful. This is perfect. Because the whole purpose of this chat this morning is that because we want to infuse enthusiasm in the people, get them out there to vote, celebrate, be happy that you're participating in this beautiful country of yours, and the ones that are trying to make it your country. Participate. Get content in the census. It doesn't matter your immigration status. Go there, go online, uscensus.gov, complete your census. Don't be afraid. The immigration is not going to come to your door and try to find you. That's not the purpose of the census. If you're able and you're to register to vote, please do so. Check your local community, your local government for your deadline to apply. Most of them are the third week of October or the last week of October to register to vote for this November 3rd presidential election. And most important, do it from a place of consciousness, free of hate, free of suffering, free of pain, free of prejudice, free of bias. Calm, present in the spirit as you are, at the divine presence that you are. Bring your goodness, bring your heart to vote. Don't come from a place of fear. Don't listen to political propaganda. That's just a machination to get people to react from a place of fear or not knowing. So when you go into a space that you get in touch with your spirit, with your divine, with your purity, with your love, in the image or liking of that beautiful, benevolent energy of the universe, you will know what is the right thing to do. You don't need no clowns on the media telling you how to vote or who you like. Bring your heart to the voting booth. That's all that matters. There you go. Heart to the booth. Click and you vote. Complete the census, and you'll be this wonderful, participating, contributing member to our society. And that's all. Anna, thank you so much for joining me this morning. You're wonderful. I knew you were the right person to talk about these things because you're so knowledgeable about your community. You are an example of what we all citizens should be doing. You're involved, you know about your structure of your community, the reason why it's so important to participate. Y si me permites, if you allow me for a minute, I want to say this thing in Spanish too for any Spanish-speaking audience that might be connecting to us this morning or watch the replays later. Mi gente, los exhorto, les paso mi entusiasmo, mi energía, que por favor, sí crean, regístrense para votar. La mayoría de los estados aquí en la nación tienen hasta la tercera semana de octubre o hasta la última semana de octubre para registrarse a votar para las elecciones presidenciales de noviembre 3. Y si no han llenado su censo, los exhorto, les echo porra, les echo ánimo, que sí que unan, que firmen y llenen su censo, se hagan contar, porque el censo es muy importante para la distribución de los recursos y de los dineros a nivel federal hacia las comunidades. Lo necesitamos para que los servicios de las carreteras, todo eso, los servicios médicos, los servicios de la policía, de la seguridad, safety, todo eso, hospitales, nosotros necesitamos esos dineros federales para que nuestras comunidades corran de una manera saludable. Es como una familia. Si usted tiene su familia, pues tienen que asegurar el dinero para pagar la renta, para pagar el servicio, el seguro médico, el seguro de carro, todo eso conlleva un presupuesto. Pues así mismo son las comunidades. Las comunidades, para poderlas manejar, administrarlas y correrlas, se necesita dinero. Y por eso es que el censo es muy importante. Bueno, espero que esto los motive, les infuse ese entusiasmo y se salgan a votar y se registren en el censo. Gracias por acompañarnos esta mañana. Le habla Yvonne Hans y Ana Rounsby D'Onofrio. Ana, would you like to say something before you go? Would you like to share something before you go?
Well, also be aware of when your time change happens, and change your batteries for your fire alarms.
Thank you, Anna. I love you. You're too funny.
It's just Anna Roundsville, so that's just.
So wait, let's make this for the record, because I'm always getting your name wrong, and I know you're so gracious with me. So it's Ana D'Onofrio Rounsby or Ana Rounsby D'Onofrio?
Neither.
Okay, Anna.
So on Facebook, it's Ana D'Onofrio Rounsville. Only because I needed to have my high school buddies be able to find me. Under my maiden name with my middle name made no sense. I missed something really important function because they couldn't find me. So that's why all those names are there and on Facebook. Everywhere else, I'm Anna Rounsville.
All right, Anna Rounsville. I like Ana D'Onofrio. Ana D'Onofrio, I like it.
It's a great, Nick Salino calls me Ana D'Onofrio, and I just let him because it's delicious. How
well, it makes me feel even closer more to you now because you got that Latin thing going on. You know, you got the D'Onofrio, Italian, the Roman languages. That's good. Mm-hmm. Okay, my love. I think this is it. We're wrapping it up. Thank you so much. And I hope this chat between girls help people out there and get registered to vote, participate in your census, and do it from a place of mindfulness, consciousness, aware, awake, cognizant, breathing, socially conscious. And you'll know and you'll feel what is the right thing to do. Peace, okay. Ciao. Nos vemos pronto. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ana.
Okay.